Recently, Egyptologists have discovered Egypt's oldest papyri. And remarkably, it is a diary from the workers who carried stones to the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Just a quick scan of the document immediately revealed the cartouche of Khufu, the pharaoh of the Great Pyramid at Giza. Here it is, containing two birds, a snake and a sun. The content of the diary was even more surprising. It documents the day-by-day activities of an official named Merer and his crew, who were responsible for carrying stones from the quarry at Turra right to the base of the pyramid. Here we see the days of the month, 9 dots for the 9th day, a U for 10, a U and 1 dot for 11, etc. And underneath it we read the activities that Merer undertook that day. We read, for instance, day 29. Inspector Merer spends his day hauling stones at Turra South. And day 26, Inspector Merer casts off with his team from Turra South, loaded with stone, for Akhet Khufu, that is, for the pyramid. His team, we read, also did work on the artificial lakes and canals that were at the time dug to allow boats to drop off the stones right at the base of the pyramid. And the team was also involved in expeditions to obtain copper from Sinai, which was used to make the tools to cut the stones. And we even read of Merer's boss, a scribe called Dedi, who worked at various institutions surrounding the pyramid, which included the pharaoh's palace and temple, the royal archives, and the granary, giving us a good idea of the things that happened around the pyramid when it was built. What a marvelous find! An eyewitness account of someone involved in the creation of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Hey, good to see you. This is Stephan, author of In Search of the Sublime. On this World History channel, we'll trace humanity's relentless pursuit of scientific truth, moral excellence and enlightenment. You'll meet anyone from Mesopotamian astronomers and Indian yogis to Greek philosophers and Enlightenment scientists. And you'll meet them firsthand using primary sources, giving you valuable insights that transcend the surface level understanding you get on other channels. So go check it out for yourself. Let's start. The story starts with the discovery of the remains of a harbor at a site called Wadi al-Jarf, which is located on the coast of the Red Sea. The harbor contained an L-shaped dock with both arms extending about 200 meters. And these arms were made of limestone pebbles bonded with clay. Close to the shore, the remains of various buildings were found, and inside were found seal impressions with the cartouche of Khufu, the pharaoh of the Great Pyramid, which of course was very encouraging for the archaeologists. Sometimes they even read the horizon of Khufu, referring directly to the pyramid. 3 kilometers inland, the team found 31 galleries cut in limestone rock. And these galleries were used to store the boats and also other equipment when the harbor was not in use. And to prevent looting during this time, the Egyptians locked these galleries with large limestone blocks, each weighing several tons. On these blocks, and also on jars inside the galleries, the names of various work teams of the pharaoh were written. A common name, for instance, was the escort team of the Uraeus of Khufu is its prow, with the Uraeus being the Egyptian serpent. And this name was found on hundreds of jars. And as we shall later discover, this was the name of the team of which Merer's group was a part. And now let's turn to the papyri themselves. Inside the galleries, hundreds of pieces of papyri were found, most of them very small, but also some larger ones, with one being over 50 centimeters long. Most impressive are papyrus A and B, who were in an exceptional state given their age. In fact, they are the oldest papyri of Egypt. Papyrus G was used to date the documents. It refers to, quote, the year after the 13th census of the large and small cattle of the Horus Medjadu, one of the names of Khufu. And this census was done every 2 years, allowing us to date the document to either the 26th or the 27th year of the reign of Khufu, near the end of his reign. Papyrus A and B name our main character Mer, a minor official who was the head of a team or za of workers. In these documents he recorded the daily activities of his team during a period of slightly more than a year, and given the amount of bread supplied to them, the team seems to comprise of roughly 40 workers. That seems to be a good estimate. Here we see a part of this document. The month is specified on top, and below we see vertical columns with above each of them the day of the month, with the word day depicted with a sun glyph, and underneath were the activities of the day. They worked in 10-day work weeks, separated in this document by red lines. And as you can see, the cartouche of Khufu is constantly repeated. Each day we read where Mer's team, quote, spends the day and spends the night. At the start we read that Mer made a few round trips between the quarry at Turra and the pyramid. We read, Day 3, cast off from, and here there's a small break, sailing up river towards Turra, spent the night there. Day 4, cast off from Turra, morning sail down river towards the horizon of Khufu, or Akhet Khufu, the pyramid, spends the night. It is likely that at this point only personnel was shipped to the pyramid, for at this point no stones are mentioned. And indeed in the next section we read that 15 groups, which should be about 600 men, gathered at a place called Ro Shi Khufu, or the entrance Ro to the lake Shi of Khufu. This was an artificial lake built to make Giza accessible by boat from the Nile. We read about this. Day 13, Inspector Mer spends the day with his team, carrying out works related to the dike which is in Ro Shi Khufu, by means of 15 teams of the larger Aper group. And by the way, there was also a second lake, also named in these texts, called Shi Akhet Khufu, or the Lake of the Horizon of Khufu. And archaeological research has since confirmed the existence of these lakes. Then we read, Mer and his men, quote, lift the piles of the dike. And this was done in the presence of a high official of the princely class, likely a man named al-Jarf, as this man was given the same title in Papyrus B. And as this event occurred around the time of the annual flooding of the Nile, it is possible they opened the dike to release water into that artificial waterway. Then, finally, Mer starts carrying stones to the pyramid. Day 25, Inspector Mer spends the day with his team hauling stones in Turra South. Spends the night at Turra South. Day 26, Inspector Mer casts off with his team from Turra South, loaded with stone for Akhet Khufu, the pyramid. Spends the night at Shi Khufu. Day 26, sets sail from Shi Khufu, sails towards Akhet Khufu, loaded with stone. Spends the night at Akhet Khufu. Day 28, cast off from Akhet Khufu in the morning. Sails upriver towards Turra South. Day 29, Inspector Mer spends the day with his team hauling stones in Turra South. Spends the night at Turra South. His team, we read, went a few times back and forth to both Turra North and Turra South, two quarries where high-quality white limestone was found that was used for the smooth white outer casing that once covered the pyramid. We read that it took 2 days to make the round trip to Turra North and 3 days to Turra South, which was a bit further away. Mer usually made a stop at Ro Shi Khufu before delivering stones. And here we also read of the director of Ro Shi Khufu, a man called al-Jarf. And interestingly, we have even found his tomb, also located at Giza, at the cemetery that is close to both the harbor and the pyramid itself. In fact, it is the second largest tomb in the entire cemetery. In his tomb, al-Jarf is named the king's eldest son, making him likely a son of Sneferu and a half-brother of Khufu. and his other titles include vizier and also overseer of all the king's works. So he was probably the main individual in charge of the pyramid construction. Very interesting. On Papyrus C, we read that around the time the water of the Nile started to retreat, the team of Merer moved to the delta region of Egypt, the marshlands in the north of Egypt. And there they were involved in some type of construction near two towns. Then they went to the port at the Red Sea, where the documents were found. And we read here of sailing expeditions likely to obtain copper from Sinai. And this copper was then used to make tools to cut wood, and even stone blocks. And indeed Papyrus K mentions copper axes, chisels and picks. One of the locations where copper was mined was Shi Asp in Sinai. And here archaeologists have found rows of furnaces up to 80 meters long. And in total an estimated 3,000 furnaces were found, with a total length of 1 kilometer. And there is even more. On Papyrus D, we even read of Merer's boss, a scribe called Dedi. Dedi, we read, worked at various institutions surrounding the pyramid, including the pharaoh's palace and temple. Papyrus D was written by Dedi, the overseer of 4 teams or za, which together formed a larger group or aper. And this group was called the Aper of the Uraeus of Khufu as its prow, the name that we also found on many jars in the port. Merer was in charge of one of these groups, of a team called Great, while the other teams were named Asiatic, Prosperous and Small. Remarkably, archaeologists have also found Dedi's tomb, also near the pyramids. And in a stela in his tomb, we read, "The known by the king, Dedi and his wife, Debet." And we even see the couple depicted underneath, together with a priest offering incense and a servant holding his sandals. In Papyrus D, we read of activities of those 4 groups at what is called the portal. And the portal is now thought to be the forecourt of the Valley Temple of Khufu, which has not been found, likely because it is located under the modern Cairo suburb. The portal, we read, was the entrance of an institution named Anku Khufu, and this means Khufu lives, as opposed to the pyramid, which was associated with his death. The horizon of Khufu is associated with his setting sun or with death. And in this place we also find the royal palace, the royal archives and the granary, which are all mentioned in the text. At this place the groups were tasked to guard duties, supply of equipment and food, and also the transport of personnel. And we also read Merer's group went to worship at the royal temple. And we read that rewards were handed out to Merer and his men, including expensive textiles. We read the Great, one of those teams, spent a day at Anku Khufu portal. The group Large spent a day at the portal of Anku Khufu, and then giving textiles to Inspector Merer, while the group Small is on its way. The group Great is busy worshipping at this place. And the scribe Dedi goes to the granary to bring back natron, a salt used for embalming. Also an interesting mention. Interestingly, the carriers of these stones, once assumed to be oppressed slaves, turned out to actually be of high status. In fact, Papyrus D refers to the teams as elite groups, or Setepza. And as we have read, their Aper team name included the name of the king himself. And they were engaged in worshipping at the royal temple. And as we have read, they were also rewarded luxury textiles. On top of this, in Papyrus H, we read of the foods delivered to them, which includes birds and poultry, fish, fruit, bread, cakes, beer, dates and honey. That is, they had a really good diet as well. So clearly, the stone carriers of the pyramid were high-status individuals. And this is what was revealed by the papyri of Merer. In the next lecture, we'll discuss how the blocks of the pyramids were actually transported, how they were moved on water by boats, on sledges on land, and then all the way to the top of the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Most remarkable are the granite blocks above the King's Chamber, at a height of 50 meters, with the largest block weighing 70 tons. But that is for the next time. For now, I hope you were inspired. And if you want to learn more about Egyptian history, or any other topic from world history, then read my book In Search of the Sublime. You can read it completely for free on worldhistorybook.com, or you can buy a physical copy on Amazon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.